Hello and welcome to our 13th tutorial for SQL. Today we're going to talk about using the between. And between can be very useful if you're looking for a range. So let's go ahead and start out with a new query, and we'll go ahead and simply create a simple select statement from our person address table. And let's use that postal code again. So let's say we want a postal code, but let's take a look at postal codes here real quick. So we have postal codes here that just really range in their values. Actually, you know what? We can't use postal code because that's a string. And for doing a between, to really get a good, accurate calculation here, let's use the state providence ID. Since that seems to be an actual integer value, let's go ahead and do that. So we'll say where state providence ID between let's say 1 and 40. See if we pull anything back. It looks like we got quite a bit of results here. Got over 9,000 results. So let's kind of shrink that down. So maybe go between 1 and 10. Still quite a bit. Let's go between maybe 1 and 5. See what we get here. Kind of shrink this down to size. Okay, that's looking a little bit better. We actually only got two types this time. But as you can see, each time when we're shrinking down this data, it's saying it has to equal this and any number between this and this. Let's see if we increase this number, see if we come up with anything. It looks like we did. So it looks like we're saying it has to equal this number, and all numbers in between, and it has to equal this number. So anything between these two numbers is what we want. And that's exactly what between does for us. Now we could use a string value. We were talking about how we wanted to use the postal code, which is a string value. So let's go ahead and try that, and you can see how that may or may not work out too well. So we have the postal code here. We're going to say between, let's say between this number, using our AND keyword, and then let's say between let's change this to a 9. That gives us a pretty large range. And we're getting an error because it's a string value. It's the in varchar. Now, what you can do to force this to work, which I don't really recommend, you can do that. The problem is, though, is that it looks for this and it looks for this. Now, because these are two integer values, it was able to actually successfully execute, but that's kind of a hack fix. Really don't recommend that practice. Even though it did work, I would not recommend doing that. It's really just a bad practice to do things like that. So when you're working with values, try not to convert them to integers. Or I'm sorry, try not to convert them to strings, or try not to convert a string, I'm sorry, to an integer. This is really the best way, and this error is what you should be getting. You shouldn't be converting this to a string. You should probably just use a different column based on something else, if you can avoid it. Because searching by strings or between strings, it's not going to give you an accurate count. It's definitely not going to pull back accurate results. In our case, it did, but that just happens to be essentially by a stroke of luck almost, for the most part. So it's really kind of a bad practice. So don't search between strings. Search between actual integers and big ints and actual whole values and decimals and things like that.